8-1, you guys, for the first time since 1954. Woo! Okay, Lions safeties have been ball hawks this season. Kirby Joseph tied with Xavier McKinney for the most interceptions in the league. Brian Branch is tied for third. So Joseph and Branch are the first teammates with at least 4 interceptions each through 8 games since Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas did it for the Seahawks in 2013. Of course, that was part of the Legion of Boom, just for perspective. RC, how do you expect that Lions secondary to play against this Texans pass game on Sunday night?
Well, hell, if the Texans can't block nobody, I expect them to play really well. I mean, I think you look at what I really did enjoy about watching this pass game against the Green Bay Packers was the fact that they still brought pressure, but they were able to lock up with a very good skill group when you think about Amik Robinson and also Carlton Davis and what they were able to do. And then on the back end, without Brian Branch for much of the game, we watched Kirby Joseph go sideline to sideline as they inserted Brandon Joseph from Northwestern and also from Notre Dame. I love what these two safeties have done, though. I think Brian Branch, coming from that Alabama system where he played the star position, gave him a lot of that Minkah Fitzpatrick perspective where he can be a threat in the run front, but also make plays on the back end. And Kirby Joseph has been a ball hawk for a few years now in Detroit. And I think the freedom that he feels with Brian Branch doing all of the little things, some of those extra things, has allowed him to search the ball a little more this year than most.
RC, hearing you talk, I'm going to say it every week. Do not throw towards 32 and 31. I don't think you can. I want us to look into, as a show, when their interceptions happen, where are they in the middle of the field? I remember earlier in the season, the Steelers didn't throw over the middle of the field against the Falcons when they have Justin Simmons and I'm going to think of his name. Jesse Bates, excuse me.
Bates.
It feels a lot like that in Detroit. It feels like, as a pass game, Houston just can't throw the middle of the field, and that's exactly where they want to more often than not. I think for Bobby Slowick, you so often you go into a game trying to call good concepts. You just want to call good concepts. I don't think you can do that this week. I think you really have to search matchups. I really do. It's like, how many different times can they just get Dalton Schultz not covered by Brian Branch? If he's covered by Brian Branch, I wouldn't throw him the football. Or Tank Dell. How many times can they get Tank Dell on Terrion Arnold? Mostly because he's the least experienced in their secondary. I truly feel Detroit has entered in that world. You can't throw the ball over the middle field that consistently against that defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Okay, let's talk about this. It's kind of crazy, and it makes sense that the Detroit Lions offense is so dominant and so electric, so exciting, with such big names, and everyone loves offense. It's why the NFL changed the rules, quite frankly. And you got you got Ben Johnson, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Gibbs. Like, there's just so many names to go around, and the trick plays, right? It just jumps off the screen. Defense oftentimes does not, right? You have to really be into football to appreciate great defense. And it's so fascinating because if we go to PFF, and quite frankly, these rankings are going to be incomplete and definitely need context. But technically, they're the number one defense in the NFL, right? Which is pretty remarkable when you think about it, considering just what they've been able to do. Now, I think it's fair to not just automatically look at these ratings and to say, oh, clearly they're the best. Look at the stats, because the truth is, and I talk about this so much, is that within football, it's so situational and complementary that if your offense is just rolling and you keep jumping out to these big leads, it gives your defense the ability to just attack. Of course, you can also go into soft coverage and all that type of stuff, prevent defense and, all of that. But also, it also opens up the door for you to get after the quarterback, right? It just go. When you're that far behind, right, that the quarterback and the offense as a whole, there's just going to be a lot of passing, right, a lot of throwing and less running, and it just makes it so much easier to attack. So as great as I think this defense is, it's undeniably helped with the offense as well, right? And just the scores that they've been able to jump out with. But make no mistake about it, it's not to say even if their offense wasn't as just relentless and ruthless that their defense would then just suddenly be like bottom 5 or something. Like, I'm not saying that at all. I'm truly not. So it's going to be really, I'm like fascinated to see how this Lions defense continues to grow, improve, and really stand alone on their own, right? Like in a game where it's clear, and if this game honestly ever comes, who knows, where the Detroit Lions offense is just not able to do what it necessarily wants to do and get out to these big aggressive leads and have the defense really hold its own. Because we haven't really seen that. We saw that a little bit earlier on in the season, right, against the Rams and the Bucks and stuff. But at this point, like, I'm throwing those games out. Honestly, like, I don't even know if how much those games matter. This team is completely different. They were obviously shaking off rust. Like, it's just a completely different energy and level of intensity that it's night and day, honestly. Like, there's really no point in even referencing the earlier weeks because this team has only become even more dominant and just relentless. It's why the Detroit Lions for me are the number one team in the NFL. It's just endless. I mean, if we also just do offensive ratings, see, this is where it's going to be a little interesting because then you're going to have the Ravens number 1, 49ers number 2, the Falcons number 3, right? Like, do we really believe that the Falcons have a better offense than the Lions? Like, come on. Like, no way, right? And so that's why these rankings and these ratings or whatever, like, always have to be in context. And even the 49ers, like, the 49ers have not really been that scary offensively. They've dealt with injuries. So there's no way. It's that's why, again, context is always needed with stats. We can't always just look at them on a surface, which is why we can't just look at even the ones that we like, showing Detroit Lions number 1 and be like, oh, it says it's number 1. It's like, okay, they're definitely obviously capable and competent and legit and good and higher up there. How high? Who actually knows? I think ranking defenses is brutally difficult. I think it's significantly easier to digest high level offensive play. Defense, there's so many more moving parts, right? It's so much more schematically and less like individual play that we see, right? It's very obvious if an offense is rolling when there's a great wide receiver and a great quarterback and a great run game. You just know it, right? It's very clear. Defensively, the easiest that it is for the average person to just digest how good are they if they're just sacking, if they're just getting to the other quarterback, right? And obviously defense is way more than just that. But when you really think about it, like, on defense, of course you have tackles, of course you have interceptions and forced fumbles, but the number one stat that anyone really, that any of the media or just people in general highlight for defense, it's sacks, right? It's so-and-so has 10 sacks, so-and-so has 8 sacks in 5 games. Like, it's sacks. It's not as, because it happens at such a higher volume, but it's not like tackles and tackles for losses or, just coverage in general. Like, it's just not discussed enough because it's just harder to see on the screen, quite frankly. So defenses can go very underrated, again, unless you truly understand football. And even then, you have to truly understand defense. Like, Tom Brady famously made fun of Bill Belichick for not even understanding the lingo for offense, right? Like, it's just, if you're on one side of the ball, you really truly know that side of the ball, and the other side can often be quite foreign. And it's no surprise too that, I mean, are there any really like defensive players that do like the the commentating for in the when you're actually watching the game itself? Like, it's pretty much always an offensive player, right? A quarterback, a tight end, occasional linemen and stuff, but it's not a lot of defensive players, at least not to my knowledge. And so it's the unsung hero of this team alone, because when you think about it, what does everyone say about this team? Offense. And I'm guilty of it too, right? I'm guilty of it too, because I'm sitting at home watching these games and I'm just like, spitting out my drink, being like, this is insane right now. But I've also mentioned the defense and just how hard they play more than anything. Just how they are so opportunistic and just get after it, right? Like, every tackle is going to be like such a corny cliche, but like they every single hit, every single tackle that they get after is like, it's like their last, right? Like, they just go all in. They just play so hard. And when you play so hard and you're well coached and you come up with great game plans and you have a dominant offense that is forcing the opposing team's offense to already be on their back foot, this is what you get, man, right? This is what you get. So the Lions, man, they are just rolling. I don't really know if there's really much negative to even remotely say. The only thing that you could ever really say about this team, and at this point it doesn't even really feel warranted, is like, well, if they're going to get to the Super Bowl, if they're going to go to, just go to the NFC Championship game, etc., like technically their coaches might be at a deficit because they haven't won a Super Bowl already, right? Like if they go up against the Chiefs, it's like Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl, Andy Reid Super Bowl, right? Spags, Kelsey, all of them Super Bowl, and that's obvious. Like they actually have that legitimate resume, so they have that experience. But like outside of just like looking at history of a resume in terms of Super Bowl wins and stuff, like there's just nothing, truly nothing that you can really be like, I don't know, this is a big problem come time playoffs, or what are they going to do against this team, insert any random team name. Like, what are they going to do? It's going to be tough. I don't know how they overcome blank. There is no weakness for this team. And it's, they're somehow underrated, which is just bizarre to me. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Detroit Lions, the unsung heroes of the defense, and just the overall dominance of the offense? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.